Okay, so today we're gonna be doing the skill which is controlling severe bleeding, and you're gonna want to check call care when you get there, because I'm gonna demonstrate it, but in this instance my victim will be awake and alert, so if they're awake and alert they can give you, their permission to help them. And they if in case they are unconscious, because they can go into hypovolemic shock or hemorrhagic shock. So that is if they lose like a quart of blood, at least 1 quart or more, they can go into shock and they'll be unconscious. And that's usually when there's no medical attention, like, or you take too long to help them, so you're gonna want to like get to helping them right away. So okay, so now I'm gonna show you how to do it. Okay, so first you're gonna want to put on gloves so you don't get any pathogens or blood on you, because they could have, diseases or something. And so yeah, you're gonna want to put your gloves on. Okay, here's the wound, and I'm gonna hold that there, and once I put the sterile gauze on it, I'm not gonna remove it, because it's gonna be like ripping off the scab. So the first gauze that you put on it, just leave it on there, and even if blood soaks through it, you can always add more. Just don't take it off, just keep it there and apply pressure. So you're gonna want to apply direct pressure for 5 minutes, and in this case the victim has spurting bright red blood, which would mean that they have a severed artery. So when you see that, you put the gauze, you apply the pressure, and then you can put more to keep it from just seeping through or making a mess. And then you're gonna want to roll the bandage on it next. Okay, and then you're gonna go ahead and tuck it in. But if it's if you need more pressure because it's really bad or bleeding a lot and you need to apply more pressure, you can tie it, and in the place that you tie it, it will put the pressure on it, so it will be like your thumb. The knot from tying it will be like your thumb holding it down, so you can just put it over the wound. And after that, after I put the bandage on, I'm gonna want to check for circulation, because if you put the bandage on too tight, it can harm them. So you want to make sure that you check for circulation and make sure it's not too tight. And if it's too tight and their fingers are turning like purple and swollen, then you're gonna want to loosen that. And if they're gonna need to seek medical attention after this, because they have a severed artery, and if you need to put a bandage over it, because it won't stop bleeding, obviously they need to seek medical attention, so that way, just to make sure that if anything, if an artery is cut or something, they can, you know, sew it up, or just to make sure that they don't start bleeding again, and you know, they could go into shock and die. So you just want to make sure they get to the doctor right away. And the last resort, if it's still bleeding through and it's not stopping, you're gonna want to use a tourniquet, because you don't want them to lose more than 1 quart of blood, because that's gonna make them go into hypovolemic shock or hemorrhagic shock. So it's 1 quart for an adult and 1 pint for a child. So you want to make sure they don't lose that much blood. Okay, so on the tourniquet is gonna be the last resort, and if you have one, you can just like put it over their arm, over the wound, so it cuts off the circulation to the artery that's severed, so that way, you know, the blood doesn't gush out. And you're gonna want to make sure it's not too skinny, because that would be damaging to the nerves, and it could, like, the circulation might not come back, because you're like, it's gonna be really, really tight, so it's gonna kind of cut through all the tissue and nerves and everything. So you want to make sure it's not too skinny and not damaging. So like a thick piece of, like a bandage or like a belt or something like that will be good. So I'm gonna use this, and you're gonna want to tie it. And then you're gonna want to put something there to twist it. So I'm just gonna use this pen. And then you're gonna tie it again. And then you'll use the pen to like twist it and twist it until it cuts the circulation off to the artery, so that way the blood doesn't gush out and put them into hypovolemic or hemorrhagic shock, because that will kill them. First, you know, your body will go into shock after losing 1 quart or more of blood and 1 pint for a child, and then after that, you know, you will die. So you want to make sure to help them quickly, and if the bandage isn't working or stopping the bleeding, or it doesn't have enough pressure, it's still seeping through, you're going to want to get a tourniquet or make one if you don't have one, which in most cases you probably won't have one, and you don't want to sit around and wait for it, because it's going to take too long, and by that time they're going to, you know, already go into shock and be unconscious. So yeah, so that was it.